So just to introduce myself again, my name is Brett McAllister. I'm the director for Halmos College of Arts and Sciences graduate recruitment efforts here. With me, as always, is Mr. Theodore Wu, who I'll introduce again in a little bit. We also have with us Dr. Tamara Frank, who's the current department chair for the program, as well as Ms. Camila Edwards, who's our academic advisor for the program. If you have any questions as well, we will be doing about a 15 to 20-minute Q&A session at the end of this presentation, where you'll be able to enter any questions into the chat, but also please feel free to enter them in the chat as you want, and we'll do our best to answer them before the end if possible. If not, we'll probably just save a couple just to be sure. So with that, we can go ahead and get started. So as I mentioned with me, is Mr. Theodore Wu. He's the assistant director on my staff. I'm sure the majority of you know him pretty well, considering he's been handling your application processes with the admission side from us. So he's always very helpful and a wealth of knowledge, so contact him at any point. We'd like to begin the open house by acknowledging the leadership and vision of our dean, Dr. Holly Lynn Baumgartner. She has been here since 2021. She has led Halmos College of Arts and Sciences with distinction, bringing a wealth of experience in academic leadership and a strong commitment to community-based research. Dr. Baumgartner is a widely published scholar, an international presenter, and a passionate advocate of student success and engagement. To give you some brief context for where you'll be studying, Nova Southeastern University, we were founded in 1964 and today offers more than 280 different degree programs. NSU is one of only 2 private universities in Florida to receive the prestigious R1 research designation, which means that we've been recognized for producing high levels of research and doctoral degrees. We're also proud to be a Hispanic serving institute and hold the Carnegie classification for community engagement. Now, our main campus is located in Fort Lauderdale, Davie, which spans approximately 300 acres and is just under 25 miles north of downtown Miami. We also have several satellite and international locations, including campuses in Puerto Rico, Jamaica, and the Bahamas. This wide network allows us to provide a rich and diverse learning environment. Now, one of the many highlights of studying NSU is access to the outstanding facilities, including our 5-story Alvin Sherman Library, which is one of the largest in Florida, and the Dontaff University Center, which does house our 4,500 square foot seat arena, wellness center, creative arts spaces, and other support of both academic and student life that you do get access to as a graduate student, as not limited to just undergrad. Our facilities benefit from a wide range of academic and research sources. Whether you're conducting independent research, collaborating with faculty, or simply looking for a quiet place to study, the infrastructure at NSU is designed to support you. From innovative labs to collaborative learning environments, we're here to help you thrive. Now, the Department of Marine Science is housed out at our NSU facilities. Out in Dania Beach, as we have mentioned before, that's where our research lab is, the Guy Harvey Oceanographic Research Center. We include a variety of different departments here, though, at the Halmos College of Arts and Sciences, from biology to chemistry and physics, communication, media, and the arts, conflict analysis, humanities and politics, mathematics for undergrad. But the main show for today is going to be the marine and environmental sciences. As I mentioned, this is a list of the varying master's degrees that we do offer. We also do offer 2 PhD programs in conflict analysis and resolution studies, as well as oceanography and marine biology. Now, as we mentioned, this is the main campus location for our Masters of Marine Science and Environmental Policy MPS students. It is the Guy Harvey Oceanographic Research Facility out in Dania Beach. It offers those variety of programs that we just mentioned as well. Now, the current department chair, as I mentioned, is with us tonight, thankfully. It is Dr. Tamara Frank. Dr. Frank's research is focused on visual ecology of deep-sea animals and crustaceans, micronectin ecology, as well as adaptations of animal photoreceptors. Discovered ultraviolet sensitive visual pigments in deep-sea crustaceans, linking vision to bioluminescence. She also contributed to major research initiatives, including the Census of Marine Life, MAR-ECO, and current studies on ecological impacts near the Deepwater Horizon oil spill site in the Gulf of Mexico, America. Dr. Frank, thank you very much for being with us today. It's always is a pleasure. And with that, I will turn it on over to you.
All right, well, welcome everyone. And behind me, you see a bioluminescent cnidarian. They put out a bioluminescent slime as a defense mechanism. But let me tell you about some of the other faculty in the department. Paul Baldarf, he does a lot of terrestrial work. He does a lot of his work in the Badlands. And so if you're a student of his, you'll probably be able to go there and do some work with him. He also works on the Everglades. Andrew Bowman, he works on coral reef ecology, and a lot of his research is done in the Philippines as well as other regions of Southeast Asia, and his students are lucky enough to be able to go and do field work there as well. Andrea Bernard is one of our genomicists, and she has done a lot of work with the Deepwater Horizon oil spill, looking at how the animals recover, whether they're coming in from another region, looking at their genetics. Derek Burkholder, we call him our turtle guy. He does a lot of work with turtles. He runs a lot of the turtle watch programs in Broward County. He also works on a lot of sharks and has a lot of shark tagging expeditions that often involve graduate students as well. Susana Caballero is one of our newest faculty members. She's from Colombia. She's another genomics expert working on conservation genetics, and this year she's teaching a field course in Colombia. Joshua Feingold, he works on El Nino impacts on coral reefs. He's been working on coral reefs in the Galapagos for about 20 years, and every year he runs a field course to the Galapagos as well. Joanna Figueiredo, she works on coral reef ecology as well. She works on the larvae. And so she does a lot of the spawning of larvae in her lab, as well as working on the effects of climate change and how the larvae survive. And a lot of the larvae are then giving to David Gilliam. He's now a full professor, as is Joanna. They just got their promotions. And he is doing a lot of coral reef restoration. So the larvae that Joanna gives him, they are grown up in tanks and then eventually replanted in hopes that some of the devastating impacts of climate change on our coral reefs can be remediated a little bit. Fraser Hartley, I'm not going to say his first hyphenated name. He also works on coral reefs. He and Andrew Bowman work a lot together, and so a lot of his work is also in the Philippines, and his students also usually get to go to the Philippines to do some of their field work. He's mainly interested in the coral reef fishes. Amy Hirons, she's our marine mammals person. She's done a lot of work with them, has students working on marine mammals, does a lot of isotope studies to determine what their feeding behaviors are. Because she works on marine mammals and their food, she's also pretty much an expert in zooplankton ecology as well. Jeffrey Hoch, he's known as JMAT. He is our other environmental scientist. He works a lot of restoration of the Everglades, as well as reproduction in a lot of species of marine and freshwater invertebrates, primarily marine though, I'd say. David Kerstetter, who's also now a full professor, he works on large pelagic fish ecology, so that would be our marlin, fish like that. He does a lot of work on sharks, has a very popular shark tagging expedition every year, and he is the one who knows about our local seabirds. Rosanna Milligan, she's now an associate professor. She works on deep sea fish ecology, and her expert is really statistics. She knows how to do all these advanced high-powered statistics tests that most of us don't know. And so she runs a stats cafe for our students who need help with their stats. Abby, she works on toxicology. She's done a lot of work on the effects of oil and the dispersants on coral larvae, on some of the deep sea animals as well. She's also our histologist and teaches a class in histology. Alex Soloviev, he is our physical oceanography. Right now, he's up at NSF. He's a program officer up there, and he'll probably be up there for another 2 years. Tracy Sutton runs the massive Deep End program that's a consortium of 7 universities, and my lab is a part of that. He is an absolute expert in fish. I have never yet seen a fish, shallow water, freshwater, marine, deep sea, that not only he doesn't know, he knows the name of it, but he also knows their life history. And most of his students also eventually get to go out on research cruises because he's the lead of at least 2 research cruises a year. Tim Swain, he is our symbiosis specialist. He works on symbioses and how climate change is affecting these symbioses. Just to give you an example, zooxanthellae have a symbiosis with corals, and so climate change can have a devastating impact on the corals if their symbionts die. And then Brian Walker, he is our GIS expert. He's been doing a huge amount of habitat mapping, and he teaches a class in GIS as well as remote sensing. And then as part of his interest also lay in coral reef ecology and fish ecology based on their habitats.
Now, to learn more about any one of these faculty members, we have a couple of places that you can look. Usually, if you're already in contact with me, one of the first places that I'm going to recommend for you to go and take a look at is the center box over here, which is our HCAS Research Lab Index page. I am actually in the process of getting a couple more of our faculty members' labs up online here, but most of them are listed over here, and they're all going to have the major advisors, advisor listed for the lab there, as well as a synopsis of their research and general activities that they get up to. But there's 2 other places that you can look as well. So you can always check out our faculty and staff directory, as if you click on any one of their individual profiles, it's basically like a whole resume slash curriculum vitae that you can learn more about their past research that they've done, or even in some instances, classes that they teach and other bits of information. Then more to look at the history of our university, especially in terms of research, we have a database called NSU Works. This is across all of our fields of study at the university. As Brett mentioned, we are a research university, so we do quite a lot out here. So if you're ever trying to learn more about the faculty, usually if you just have their full name, you can search for them by the search bar that you're somewhat able to see, I know, in that picture over there, and you're able to search usually by last name, and they'll pull up a lot of their more recent publishings. And that extends to a lot of our students too. So as you would come in as a student, once you'd finish up, say, your thesis in our MS Marine Science program, or if you were to come and do your dissertation with us, you would go and add that to our NSU Works repository by the time you'd be done here as a student. Now, with a little bit more of that in mind, I did want to, of course, talk more about our programs here. So starting off with our MS in Marine Science program, we're going to have a couple of different areas that you'll be able to look into with this. So we offer immersive learning experiences. We do what's called experiential learning. So we really want you to have that balance between the theoretical coursework you're getting in your general lectures, as well as then pairing that with getting opportunities to be out in your lab or in the general area. Our oceanographic campus is less than 100 yards from the Atlantic Ocean, and we're situated at the port entrance for the city of Fort Lauderdale called Port Everglades. So we are in prime condition to monitor a variety of those coastal zones. So you'll have many, many opportunities to utilize the information you're learning in your courses and putting that into effect. Now, with this, you're going to have 3 different concentrations that you can choose your elective course offerings from. The way that this will work, and I'll get to show this a little bit more on the next slide here, is that we give more allocation towards your elective-based coursework. So you have a lot more flexibility in your interest as what you'd like to do. Now, most students don't actually opt to choose a concentration if they are in the MS Marine Science program. And reason for that being is because you're able to choose classes from all 3 if you do so. If you do decide to take a formal concentration, it means you have to take 6 courses from within your concentration, and then you can take 1 outside of it. So there's a little flexibility with it, but the reason why this tends to be more for students not taking a concentration is because we do offer courses on a specific calendar. So we offer certain courses on an even odd year basis or specific to term. So for instance, we offer a marine mammalogy class. If perhaps that's only happening on odd summer terms, you might have to wait 2 years before you can take it again if you miss it. So that's why we see most students opting not to take a concentration. If you would like to, you're always recommended to first go and talk with your advisor for your lab if you have that in mind, and then also talking with Camille too to make sure that you have a plan of study put together. Now, for the curriculum itself, you're looking at 36 credits in total. So we're typically looking around 2.5 to 3 years. I generally say plan for at least 3 years, depending on how your research goes. While you're in the program, you must maintain at least a 3.0 GPA, and there is going to be a completion of a rubric exam by the time you're done. But the major piece of your graduation requirements is going to be the successfully submission and defending of your thesis. So as you take a look here on the left-hand side with your curriculum, the way this will be broken down, you're going to have 9 credits of core classes, and each one of our classes is typically worth 3 credits. So you're going to be taking 3 classes of cores and then 21 credits of electives, or 7 classes of electives. Those leftover credits, which is going to be a total of 6 credits, is then allocated specifically for your research credits. We don't require specific coursework to have been completed prior to starting your research credits. It is just the approval of your proposal of research. However, please keep in mind that once you have been approved for research credits, you must continue to take those credits until you subsequently defend your thesis. So what we were looking at a little bit earlier here, if you're looking at full-time status, the average graduate student takes 6 credits a semester. So that's 2 classes. And that's why you're getting that 2.5 to 3 year time span. If you were to look at doing part-time status, you'd be taking usually 3 credits a semester or 1 class. And you'd be looking usually between 4 to 5 years, depending on, again, how your research fares. The max enrollment time for the MS Marine Science program is 5 years. So this is one of those situations where if you know you're not going to be quite able to do your studies at full time, the 100% of your time while you're here in the program, definitely make sure to make mention of that when you're coming and talking to, say, like Camille, or mention it to your advisor so that they can make plans accordingly. And we do require summer attendance. This program goes year round, so you will have classes in fall, winter, which is our spring term, and as well as summer. Now, the sister program to the MS Marine Science is our MPS and Environmental Science program. This offers many of the same courses that you'll come to know in the MS Marine Science program, but we cater these classes more towards students looking to move on from their master's degree and move directly into the professional field. So that's why you really get to have a benefit from taking this experiential learning style classes, because of the fact that we're able to get you a lot more opportunities to be out in the field actually utilizing the information than you're learning from, say, your lectures. Part of this too, you don't actually have a requirement to do a thesis project, so there's a credit differential of 6 credits, so you're only doing 30 credits in this program instead of 36. This doesn't mean that you don't have the opportunity to get involved in research, it just means that you're not doing a formal thesis project. In some instances, some of our faculty actually prefer to take MPS students over MS Marine students if they need more readily available hands for ongoing research projects. Whereas, say, our MS Marine Science students, they have to adhere to a little bit more of a strict timeline because they need to start their proposal stages for their research and then subsequently start moving in on their thesis credits. So they may not be able to jump right into doing formal work in the lab, but it kind of depends on the faculty member too. Many instances, we've had students who have gotten agreements even before applying from faculty members that would be interested in taking them on in lab, of course, pending their approval to the program, which is what I know many of you are familiar with. However, for our purposes here with the MS Marine Science program, we don't actually have that requirement. You're allowed to take the first 2 semesters in the program to get to know our faculty before you need to solidify your advisor. On that note too, if for any reason you were not able to find an advisor by the end of that 2nd semester, you are able to continue in the program, but know that you will have your projected graduation date pushed back until you are subsequently able to start your research credits. And of course, have your advisor in place. Now, for the MPS program's elective work, you actually have a 4th concentration exclusive to the program that you can take classes in, as well as the other 3 that we offer for marine biology, environmental science, and coastal zone management. This is a little bit more of a balance between your core and elective credits, though. So whereas you're only doing 9 credits of your core classes in the MS Marine Science program, you're going to be doing 15 credits of core classes in the MPS Environmental Science, meaning then you're going to have 15 credits elective coursework. In this program, you are not allowed to have a formal concentration, but again, you're still able to choose from all those courses. In specific for the 4th exclusive concentration for computational molecular biology, one thing that you do just want to keep in mind if you're interested in taking those classes is that it has a little bit higher of a requirement in terms of courses that you'll need to take within the concentration, being that this one would be a little bit more specific. So this one, you'll take 12 credits instead of 9, and then you could take 3 credits outside of that. Whereas, say, for any of the other concentrations, usually they kind of want you to take 9 credits. But that's a little more of like an informal setting just because, again, you're not having the formal concentration with this degree. So it's more of a preference, just more if you're working with your faculty, they'll make recommendations to, depending on like how your research is going, just to have a couple of classes that could help you along the way. So with that, sorry. What you're going to be looking over here for the curriculum, just as a breakdown so you can see it here a little bit easier, again, 30 credits, and then you're going to have that same rubric exam at the end of your time in the program. Whereas the MS Marine Science program, I generally recommend allotting for about 3 years to complete your degree. For the MPS and Environmental Science program, you can complete this in as soon as 18 months if you were really trying to push through it, which is give or take about 5 semesters. And that's maintaining your full-time status at 6 credits. We generally don't want students to take more than 6 credits. You can talk with the faculty in the program office to see if it is feasible. A lot of students do tend to struggle because we find that that 6 credit is a nice balance for having enough time to, one, be able to work in your lab, have outside time to have, of course, like a social life, or if you know you have to mix in like a part-time job in the mix over there too, it works a little bit easier that way. Other things to keep in mind if you were to take more than 6 credits, if approved to do so, it can affect your completion time or your status as a student. For instance, if you were to take more than, I believe, 3 terms of 9 credits for the MPS program here, for example, you would end up actually having to be at part-time status. And one thing you need to keep in mind if you're going to be completing these programs at part-time status, it usually does disqualify you from certain types of financial aid. So for the MPS program over here, what we're looking at is a maximum enrollment time of 3 years. But like I said, your average time as a full-time student will take you about 18 months. And then part-time, it's a little tougher because you can't, I would say, quite do it all at part-time status and be able to complete that all within that mandatory 3-year time span. So it's going to be a little bit of a work in progress between having that plan of study in place, and then you'll usually just have to take at least 1 semester at full-time status. Just as a reiteration again, no thesis required with this program. And we do have a transfer policy with the MS Marine Science program that recently was started at the beginning of this year. So what we're looking at with this transfer policy is if you're coming into the MPS program, you must complete 15 credits, 9 of which must consist of core classes. All the while, you have to maintain at least a 3.25 GPA. Along the way there, you should find a faculty or staff member willing to act as your major advisor. And then if all that lines up, your advisor would advocate for your transfer. And if approved, you would immediately then start working towards your thesis project. I recommend, if this is a goal for some of our students here, and I know we might have a couple of students that had been given a contingent offer to the MPS program, what you will want to keep in mind if you're going to want to go this route is that you should ideally be trying to plan ahead accordingly. So I usually say that you're going to want to account for at least another semester of coursework for your research, and it could be more. Again, it just depends on how your scope of your project is going to be working with your faculty on a larger timeline, because when you'd make that transition, you'd immediately want to be moving into your proposal stages of research. But if you're ahead of the game, then you could be working on that as this is all taking place, so that if and when approved for that transfer, then we can have that looked at. And so then you would be able to start working on research credits at a sooner pace. But that's more of a conversation that you'd want to have between you and your major advisor. And one thing to clarify with this transfer policy is that the students cannot advocate for their transfer. It must come from one of the faculty members. And that generally would usually, oh, I'm sorry, 1 second. Sorry about that. I'm at home. So with that, what you're going to be looking at is usually around like that 3-year time span if you'd be looking to transfer over again. Now, with our PhD program, we do want to account for the time that you would take to do our master's. We do require master's in order to apply for our PhD program, but that comes into a play here that I'll show you in just a sec. But with our PhD program here, you're going to have opportunities to move forward with research that you had been previously moving on with your master's and be able to elaborate further on that. So this will have opportunities to even allow you to publish a series of papers with even like their own ISBN for your dissertation, and allow you to be prepared for more, let's say, impactful roles in larger areas of non-for-profit, governmental sec, or general research too. And as many of you, I'm sure, are already aware, a lot of times our research does get to go hand in hand with academia. So we do actually see a lot of our own students coming back, either if they want to come and teach with us. Dr. Renegar is a great example of that. She did her master's and PhD with us and now has 2 labs and is teaching with us. So I think she liked us quite a bit. Now, looking into the curriculum a little bit more, so you're going to be completing a total of 75 credits beyond the baccalaureate, but we're going to actually be able to allow up to 30 credits from your master's program to transfer in. And so most of the time, if you're going to be doing our master's program, you're usually able to get those full 30 credits, pending a review from the committee, of course. Now, you're going to are required to take 42 credits of what we call upper level coursework, which is essentially just graduate level coursework. So what you'd be looking at, if you're able to transfer in that full 30 credits from your master's, then you only have to complete 12 credits of upper level coursework, which is about 4 classes. The rest of your credits is allocated towards research. So at that point, then, if you're purely taking research credits, you only need to have 3 credits to maintain full-time status, but that really will be dependent on what you need to do during that specific semester. So usually, as I work with any of our PhD candidates, you would generally see at least like 2 years worth of taking 6 credits per semester and about a year's worth of credits where you'd be taking, a year's worth, I'm so sorry, a year of 3 credits per semester. With that, though, you do need to maintain a 3.5 GPA throughout the program, and that requirement even extends to coming into the program because we are taking your credits from your master's program. Those credits need to reflect the same type of grade point average. If you're falling below that 3.5 mark, we really don't have too much flexibility to even review the application because we have to take those transfer credits, and that would put you at academic probation if you were to come into the program. And we don't want to see that happen because, of course, that gives you a lot more stress, even though you would have just started the program then. Now, generally speaking, on an ideal timeline, because you'd be having those full 30 credits transfer in, and then more so really just having to focus on your dissertation research, then you're really going to be looking to complete your PhD program in about 3 to 4 years. Closer to 3 years, but as necessary, it could be extended out to 4 years. There is some more specifics that you'd have to work with the, program office on, as they'd have to review your project at that point to see if it's necessary and will be approved for that 4th year of study. And then this is just giving you a little bit more of a layout then for what you can expect credit-wise. So as a reiteration, then you're having those 30 credits that can transfer in. And for that, you may even have opportunities to take more specific classes, such as our directed independent study classes. And those are more curated by your specific advisor. They may want you to take certain courses as it relates to your research project. Now, there's a little bit of a timeline or I should say milestones as you'd move through the PhD program itself. So you have, say, those directed study credits, which they're technically optional. It's really more of a recommendation based on your advisor and also working with the program office as necessary. But then you, of course, are leading up to some of the research proposal stages. So you are going to have to defend this proposal. And afterwards, then you would be able to start your dissertation credits if it has been approved. As necessary, then you might have to go back and do some more editing and reiterations if they think your proposal needs some more work. And then a couple of other points during your time here, such as when you'd be getting to do those credits, you also have a comprehensive examination that's a part of 2 phases. So you have a written phase and an oral phase. So the written phase is taken upon completion of each of your courses and consists of several questions by your PhD committee. Usually it's like kind of 1 day per question, and it can last up to 4 days. And the oral phase is a little bit different, so that'll be scheduled if the written phase warrants further examination. Past that point, then your culmination for, of course, being in the PhD program is the defense of your dissertation. So once completed, you're going to need to do a couple of things, such as submitting that, of course, to your committee. If approved, then for your defense, you'll have to set that with all of your committee members to make sure that they're all available. And we generally don't do defenses in between the semesters themselves. All right. Now, moving into the actual application side of things here, our larger team for the Halmos College graduate admissions consists, of course, myself. You've gotten to meet Brett, and there's a couple of other folks that comprise our team. So I primarily handle our marine environmental science graduate programs, but I do travel a little bit for my position here. So if you can't get a hold of me for any reason, my associates Megan and Farah there on either side are always happy to answer any questions you may have. Or if you call into our general line, you're usually going to get Andrew there over on the right-hand side, and he's actually a graduate from our MPS environmental science program. So depending on what your question is, he might be able to answer it himself, or otherwise he'll usually send you over to talk to either myself or Megan or Farah. So all of the programs that we've just been able to discuss so far have rolling admissions basis. So we accept students all throughout the year. Now, there is a couple of details I like to talk on this, for example. So for those that are looking more towards the fall period, which I know is the vast majority of you, we generally look to have our application deadline around mid-July. And for any one of our application deadlines, we really do try and keep that to a Friday. allowing you the rest of that work week then to come in, or excuse me, to submit any miscellaneous documents. If you have questions, issues that might pop up, of course, you can, contact us at any point. Now, for those that would be looking, say, for the PhD program, I actually recommend you look more towards the winter semester because that's when the allocation of the PhD scholarship awards would go out. They only make those allocations once per year, so if you miss that, you'd have to wait a whole nother year to see that scholarship come around if you'd be applying towards that. Now, otherwise, for the MS Marine Science or the MPS Environmental Science program, have a lot more flexibility for any one of those terms. I know it says winter. That is our spring term, so that would mean you'd be starting just after the new year. Fall period, we usually start in the 3rd week of August, and summertime usually starts in the 1st full week of May. For the MS Marine Science program and the MPS Environmental Science program, we're going to be consisting of fairly similar requirements here. So you're going to submit an NSU application, which I'm going to walk you through here in just a sec, and there's a $50 fee associated with submitting that application. Now, to clarify, submitting the NSU application does not mean that your application is complete. It just means you've completed the first portion. I am happy to say, though, all of our attendees here will have an opportunity to look into this a little bit more in specifics as we move through here. So if you're unsure of what this is going to look like, I'll be able to kind of paint a picture here in just a sec. Outside of the general application, you're going to submit official transcripts from any college institution that you have attended. General rule of thumb, we want to have all transcripts. So even if you only took like 3 credits at a community college, we would like to have those. I'm always happy to review those in more specifics. So if it's just like a random class, like a Spanish class that's not directly correlated to or relevant to the program, it might not be wholly necessary. But otherwise, I would just go on rule of thumb to submit that with your application. For those who've taken college credits outside the United States, though, we require a separate form of documentation, which is an official evaluation report. This is a little bit more specific, so it would be if you had actually separately attended at a non-US institution. If you were doing like study abroad classes, that's a little bit of a separate scenario. Usually I can just have your institutional or US institutional transcripts to cover that as long as the grades are listed. If they're not listed, might need to get more information. However, if it is not affiliated with any sort of abroad program here from the US, then we need it to be done, we need an evaluation done by what's called the National Association of Credential Evaluation Services, or NACES for short. There's a variety of members that are part of the NACES organization, and those are the only ones we approve to do our evaluation reports. If you do a report from any other non-NACES member organization, we cannot accept that as official, which means I can't use it for your review. Then you're also going to be able to upload a copy of your resume or curriculum vitae. And for those that are non-native English speakers, we generally do then require proof of English language proficiency. Depending on your country of origin, we may be able to waive that. So feel free to let us know. We accept scores from several different proctor organizations, including the TOEFL, the IELTS, as well as Cambridge, and a few others. So if you wanted the full list, please reach out to us. Then for minimum GPA requirements, we're looking at 2.85 GPA for the MS Marine Science program and 2.75 for the MPS Environmental Science program. We also do have recommendations where if you had anyone intended to be, like you had used, say, for letters of recommendation in the past for a separate application, or you just wanted to have note someone that you've gone to work with, you can list those individuals as references on your resume. And we'd ideally recommend having at least one academic reference. Many of times our faculty are pretty well connected, especially within the marine science community. So they are able to recognize quite a few different names that can come across their desk. So if you're unsure whether or not they'd be able to recognize it, I say feel free to include it. Now, for the PhD program, is going to be able to build a little bit more off of what we expect, say, from our master's-based applications. So you're going to have that same general NSU application along with your transcripts, copy of your resume, but we do also require the GRE. However, for those that do complete our master's programs here at NSU, we will waive that. Otherwise, as long as it's been taken within the past 5 years, we will accept those scores, and they need to be sent directly through ETS. We can't just accept a general PDF copy from you. With that then, for undergraduate GPA, we're looking at a cumulative of 3.0 for requirements, 2.9 cumulative for the undergraduate, but then for your major specific GPA, we want to see that at 3.0 or higher. But then for your master's GPA, as a reiteration, that is going to be, must be at 3.5 minimum. But the biggest piece that you need for this application is a letter of endorsement from an NSU faculty member. That is really the keys to the kingdom. I truly recommend not submitting formal applications until you have gotten that letter of endorsement from one of our faculty members. That's going to entail details such as which labs bring you on, the faculty member endorsing you, any sort of financial contributions coming from the lab towards either your research or to cover costs of attendance as a student, and then anything else necessary for us to know. With that, then, you'll also have a pre-proposal of research that's submitted with the general NSU application. It does have a max character cap of, I want to say it was 6,000, could be a little bit more, so you will have to be concise in your writing over there. If you really think that there's more information that needs to be listed than what you're able to provide in that little pre-proposal, I would recommend adding it to the letter of endorsement. Oh, sorry. One other thing to add with the letter of endorsement. You will not be able to upload that yourself. It has to be sent to me directly from the faculty member. Okay, so now let's go ahead and take a look at what the application is going to look like. This first page over here is what your account creation page will look like. So this is going to be just your first general questions, just more demographic info, name, date of birth, all that fun stuff, affiliation with the university, anything like that. Once you go ahead and fill this all out, you're going to be able to see all of it on the next page, which is essentially your general login. But a couple of things to quickly note over here. If you're going to be applying to multiple programs, you do have to submit separate applications for all of them. The only instances where we may not necessarily require you to submit another application is if we do a contingent review for those that are applying to the MS Marine Science program. We also look to see if you might be a better fit for the MPS Environmental Science program. Those are one of the few cases where we may not require you to submit another formal application, but otherwise it usually has to be separate ones. Then it's just more about double checking all of your general contact information. We usually recommend not using a school affiliated email when you're creating an account with us, just because you may lose access to that email later on, and we will be sending impertinent information to you about your application and other details. Now, one of the first pages that you come to over here as you start an application would be like your biographic information, which is what you get to see in the photo over here. There's a couple of other parts to it, just like contact info, your program and additional information, where you went to college, and a couple of like legal disclosures. But once you would go and submit the general NSU application, first usually takes about 24 to 48 hours to process, as does most documents that are submitted to us. If you're not seeing certain types of documents shown as received on your application, feel free to contact us and we can go ahead and check that. There can be a number of different reasons why it may not be showing properly, but we're always happy to look into that for you. There are certain types of documents that you're able to upload directly yourself, such as the resume piece. So you'd be clicking on the highlighted portion there on screen, which is the admissions documents. You won't be able to see anything under this tab until you submit the application. So if you click on this before doing so, it'll just be a blank page. So you'll have to pay that $50 fee and submit the application, and then go back into the admissions documents, and then new fields will populate for you to be able to upload your resume there. You'll also be able to track the status of your transcripts. So a lot of times we will get two portions of communications in that we will get transcripts in, get a notification that's been received. However, in some instances, if it's missing information or if you try to send transcripts before you even submit an application, it might be considered what we call orphan documents. And orphan documents means that they're missing some sort of personal identifier. And then we have to do manual verification, which takes a much longer time to process. So if you're ever getting any sort of confirmation, say from your registrar's office or an approved third-party vendor, such as Parchment or the National Student Clearinghouse, about your transcripts having been received and it doesn't show as received on your application, definitely reach out to me. All right. But once everything's said and done here, sorry, one second. You're going to be looking at around 5 to 10 business days for the review process. So usually I'll do one last review to make sure all of your documents are in place. And once ready, it'll be sent over to Dr. Frank and her team to go ahead and review. Afterwards, you'll be notified via email of your formal decision, and you'll be able to view that on the application portal. And from there, any next steps will follow suit. So if and when admitted to the program, then the first step that you would take is to pay your seat deposit. It is a $100 fee, but it's put directly towards your tuition costs, and it fully activates your account and allows you to register for classes. Upon doing so, then you usually want to meet with your academic advisor, who is Camille over here. Now, I would usually say you want to meet closer to when your course registration period opens up. And I think that's preference for Camille too, because she might have to go and meet with you again to give you a whole update if you forgot from your last meeting. So usually wait until you're a little bit closer to your specific term's course registration period. Once then you've gotten to meet and able to say, make a plan of action for, say, the next couple semesters about what classes, or if you're just creating a general plan of study, then you're able to go and register for classes later on. What happens is we'll be sending out, if and when you'd be admitted, a whole congratulatory email with more information about how you can get your student account set up and how registering for classes is going to look. And of course, Camille will be able to always show you how that will look like too when you set up her appointment, or excuse me, the academic advising appointment. But then, of course, the big questions for us here is how much is this going to cost us? So we make our tuition rates on a per credit hour basis. So for both the MS Marine Science and the MPS Environmental Science programs, we're looking at $1,496 per credit hour. One thing I do like to preface with our tuition costs, they do change on a year-to-year basis and are usually changing via our fiscal years, which is usually by the June to July period. So this is the current tuition rates for the 2024-2025 academic year, but starting for fall 2025, which is the next upcoming fall term, our program tuition rates will be updated. So first place that you'll be able to see that is on the Halmos College tuition and fees page. If you ever need help looking for that, feel free to reach out. But then in total, what you'd be looking at to compare, say, the MPS versus the MS Marine Science program, it's more or less about a $10,000 difference, as you can see distributed between the credit differential. So for the 36 credits you'd take to complete your MS Marine Science program, you're looking at about $54,000, rounding up just a tad there, versus the MPS program being 30 credits, then you're looking at closer to about $45,000 if we're rounding up a little bit. Now, in comparison over here for the PhD program, we have it set at $1,204 per credit hour. Still generally looking again like taking about 6 credits a semester. And I know that says 91,000 right there. Please don't freak out about that. We do have financial aid as part of that, which I'll be able to kind of discuss here in just a little bit. So that can be reduced quite a bit. And we have a very great support structure, which I'm thankful to say is part of a lot of the work that Dr. Frank and the Department of Marine Environmental Sciences has been able to do over the last few months, in fact. Now, on the note of financial aid, of course, we always want to make sure you're submitting your FAFSA. At graduate level, as you may or may not be aware, a lot of times you're going to be seeing a lot less gift aid, such as grants, and more so you'd be seeing opportunities for educational loans. These tend to be unsubsidized loans. Most students are able to qualify for the Graduate Plus loan, which allocates, I believe, about $20,000 for one academic year. Now, we have our own Office of Financial Aid, but they really handle more of the disbursement of the funds themselves rather than going or being the place where you go, say, to apply for certain types of financial aid. So for our scholarships setup, what we're looking at here, oh, I'm sorry, I'm getting a little ahead of myself. So I'll talk about the scholarships in just a sec here. But with then FAFSA and our Office of Financial Aid, they're going to be able to handle a lot more of the general courses and going to be one of the first places you're going to come to if you have general questions. So, you know, if maybe you had a hold on your account, maybe you're not seeing a line item of financial aid listed on your student account, they're going to be able to assist with a lot more of those specifics. Now, if necessary, if you need to set up a payment plan, we do, of course, have our bursar's office. Depending on what term that you'd be wanting to come in for the year, you would have a deadline to get a payment plan set up. Usually for the fall semester, you're looking around the 1st of August to want to be able to get that set and going. If it's later than then and you have to look into different options for paying tuition costs, sometimes they're able to set a different type of payment plan up later in the semester, but they do have deferment fees of like $75 allocated towards setting those types of situations. So more of a conversation you have to have individually with the bursar's office, but just so that you're aware. Then for scholarships. Now, most of the scholarships that you guys are going to be focusing in would be located underneath our department specific. So you'd be looking under our marine environmental science based scholarships. In particular, what you want to keep in mind is that most of the marine environmental scholarships do not open until the fall and winter semesters open respectively. So you'd have to be admitted and enrolled in the program before you'd be able to apply for most of those scholarships. But the way that that one works, it's going to be open for a larger period of I want to say it's like a month or two for general applications. It's a big, email that's sent out to all of our graduate students about what scholarships are available, the amounts, and what they'd be looking at for requirements attendance or eligibility criteria. You are able to apply then for as many of those scholarships as you'd like, but you can only be a recipient of 2. For our other 2 types of scholarships, we have college-wide and institutional. So they have general criteria each. So college-wide, we generally want to see that as, of course, being students within the Halmos College. They'll have more specific criteria listed online if you can check out our scholarships page. And then institutional, you just have to be a student here at the university. Again, they'll have more specifics about what they're looking like for their ideal candidates. And then every single one of the scholarships will have a point of contact listed. It's usually either a phone number or an email. If it's the email, it's actually the one you'll see here on the slide, which is the HCAS scholarships at nova.edu. It is a group email, so depending on which scholarship you might be inquiring about, a specific individual would reply in kind. So any questions regarding that, feel free to go ahead and reach out to that email. But again, you must be at least admitted to one of our programs before you'd be able to start any sort of scholarships. Now, more on some of the different department-specific funding opportunities, we do offer some different types of assistantships. So we have research assistantships and teaching assistantships. I'm going to just dub them RAs and TAs for short to keep it a little bit easier for us. Now, RAs are typically full-time positions with the university. So you're going to be working full-time under one of the different research labs, and this usually does come with some sort of salary. And after a 6-month probationary period, you do get the employee tuition discount, which is 80% off for master's programs, and it's 50% off for our PhD programs. Now, I would say it's a little harder for new incoming students to get RAs versus students that have been here already. I tend to see them given out on a seniority basis, but it's not like a hard set rule. We definitely have seen new students come and get RA positions starting the program. In some instances, like Dr. Brian Walker, he actually recommends for his students to come and work in his lab even before starting the program so that they can get that 6-month probationary period out of the way. And then when they start the program, they have that tuition discount right off the bat. Now, teaching assistantships, a little bit different. It's a scholarship position, so it can award up to $20,000 in scholarships that's split between the fall and winter semester. The TA position works with undergraduate biology lab sections, so you would be working over on our main campus quite a bit. The way that this would be allocated between your fall and winter semesters, since we're working with the undergraduate calendar year, meaning that you're not going to be working in summer, you'll have 10,000 allocated for fall and 10,000 allocated for winter. But it's broken a little bit more specifically than that. So you'll get a scholarship that ranges up to $5,000 right off the bat. And all that would then be put towards any of your outstanding tuition costs. And while I say up to $5,000, it usually is the full $5,000 amount. It's just based off of how much you owe for tuition for the semester. So if you owe less than $5,000, obviously they're not going to pay out the full $5,000 for that because it's specifically just for tuition costs. Now, the other $5,000 is actually split between 8 pay periods in the form of a $625 stipend, and that's paid out directly to you. So you can use those monies however you see fit. Most students opt to, of course, put it back towards their tuition costs, but of course, that's at your discretion. Then there is other possible department and student developmental funds that can cover different miscellaneous expenses, such as having travel fees to get to and from different academic conferences or research conferences, paying for the registrations for such conferences. That's a little bit more dependent on your lab. So if you have any of your faculty members that are a part of, say, larger academic societies, like Dr. Amy Hirons, she actually co-directed a conference with the Society of Marine Mammals about 3 years ago now. I can't believe it's been so long. It was just over in West Palm, in fact. So a lot of her students in her lab, as well as a lot of NSU students in general, actually had the opportunity to go and attend that because they had to just volunteer time at the conference working at it, and then they could attend for free. So we try and have different opportunities for you to get involved. And, you know, Dr. Frank even mentioned before, we have Dr. Feingold, who gets to go out to the Galapagos Islands. He does take a variety of students for that. I think it's mostly undergrads, though. Do they take grads, Dr. Frank? We'll check later on. But anyways, so just saying there's a variety of different opportunities for you to get involved with that then. Now, on some of the different discounts that we then offer, so we do have a partnership with Broward County Sheriff's Office. We offer a 30% tuition discount for a couple of different programs. Right now, we're still looking to see if we can get some of our science programs added. I believe currently we only have it enrolled for our conflict analysis and national security affairs program. But if that changes, of course, we'll be sure to let you know. More of what you might be interested in for any of those that are with U.S. Armed Forces families, you might have an opportunity for a discount discount over here. For those that are direct dependents or a possible spouse or have been in the U.S. Armed Forces and were not dishonorably discharged, you can receive a 20% tuition discount. All that you would need to do towards that end is first, you would need to be admitted to the program, but then you would submit a copy of your DD-214 or another form of military identification to our Veterans Resource Center. Matthew Chenworth is our senior director for military affairs over there, so he would handle most of the verification process. If and when approved for that, we would then apply it to your account, and it's applied for every subsequent term that you're enrolled in the program. Now, if at any point you want to go and check out the nitty-gritty details of the program, I know there's a lot to cover when it comes to any one of our programs here. We do have our graduate program catalog. So this is going to have anything from your general overview of the program, your graduation requirements. You'll look into anything from, academic standing, keeping good GPA, and of course, even course descriptions. So if you would like to learn a little bit more about that, feel free to take a picture of the little bit.ly link there and check it out later on. And of course, you can always check us out on social media, as many of you, I'm sure, have been getting either via our emails, we do text messages, we'll put on a variety of different blasts on our social media accounts. You'll find our handles are usually anywhere as NSU HCAS or our longer name of the NSU Halmos College of Arts and Sciences. Just as a reiteration again, this is all being recorded and will be posted to our YouTube channel later on. But with that, then, I would love to open up the floor to questions. If you have ones that you maybe wanted to talk about on a more individual basis, always happy to set up a meeting with you. I do Zoom conferences, phone calls, or if you'd even prefer to text, I can do that too. But yeah, feel free to throw anything you'd like in the chat, or if you'd even prefer just to speak, I would go ahead and go, or excuse me, or if you would just like to speak, you can raise your hand.
So we already did actually have a bunch of questions come through. I tried to answer a couple of them as quickly as I could typing-wise, but there were a couple that I did want to have answered live. The first one being, how flexible is the GPA minimum for the MS program? What would you recommend if my GPA is a little bit lower than that?
So, well, Dr. Frank, feel free to chime in here. I would say right now we're pretty hard set on those GPA requirements. We're at a point with our applications that we need to be able to see these types of proficiencies. And if you're falling below that minimum GPA requirement, we're more than likely going to recommend for you to go and take supplemental courses to give that a little bit of a boost. But we're always willing to look into everything that you have to show with your application. We always do holistic-based approaches to our review processes. So we never necessarily deny just straight out because of a low GPA. We want to get the bigger picture of everything, but it is certainly an important piece of the puzzle.
And for the MS, the GPA requirement is going to go up to 3.0. So that not for this application round. We have to give it a year before that's going to happen.
Okay, the next question talked about the concentration. It was from an anonymous attendee, but just shoot me an email and yes, we can go ahead and drop that concentration prior to registration. That's not a problem. I'll put my email address in the chat as well.
And is it possible to become an RA as an MPS student?
Absolutely. As long as you're an admitted student to one of our master's programs, it's based more solely on the discretion of the Department of Biological Sciences, who they'd like to hire as their TAs. One thing, sorry, I forgot to mention regarding you said RAs, I apologize. Yes, you can be an RA as an MPS student. That's just more dependent on the individual lab usually and their funding. So as long as you have an agreement from the lab to have that type of position. Now, research assistantship is a general title. I think they have, what do they call them usually, Dr. Frank? Is it usually a graduate research associate and as the
Yeah, it is.
title?
It is. And if you're on usually those do go to the MS students because usually the advisors want to pay their own students for doing research in their labs. But it doesn't have to be research. If you have a position in the library or you have a position helping out administrative, we have graduate student assistants there too. That also counts for your tuition waiver as long as it's a full-time position.
Yes, absolutely. That's a great point. So the research assistantship has the employee tuition discount, but it's the NSU employee tuition discount. So yeah, as Dr. Frank said, if you are open to working full-time with us at the university, obviously, if you prefer to more works closely related to your studies, that works out a little bit better. But as long as you're open to working with the university, you'd have that opportunity to get that discount just the same.
And to follow up on just on the slight job front, my office does offer a couple of different federal work study positions, and while they do not come with that discount at the university, that is another opportunity for you to work with my staff at the oceanographic facility for varying recruitment purposes and so on. Just to put that on your radar as well. There was a question from Shakira for clarification. When are scholarships available again after applying?
Yes. So most of the department specific ones will open when fall and winter semesters begin. The institution or college wide ones are a little bit more all throughout the year. But I generally believe they follow the academic timeline. So they try and follow closer to like when fall term would be opening up or winter. A little less during the summertime, because a lot of times in summer is when you'd be doing a little bit more active work out in the field. So usually they allocate a lot more of their scholarship funds for the fall and winter periods.
The next question I'll answer a little bit, and I'll Teddy let you kind of chime in too on it. Is it realistic to work full-time while pursuing the MS MPS as a full-time student? And my answer to that is we do see it all the time. We do have multiple students that I've spoken to that are working full-time jobs, usually in some form of marine field, whether it's working with the water quality, with Broward County Sheriff's Office. I know of a couple of different students that have actually worked in different aquarium settings. One of them actually worked at a local restaurant, helping maintain their aquarium on site. So yes, there are a lot of students that do work full-time jobs or part-time jobs to help supplement their income while they are a graduate student.
Yeah, and it's really gonna definitely be one of those things that you should have good time management skills on. You need to be able to plan ahead your schedule accordingly. Make sure that you're not overworking yourself too. Certainly is manageable. One other thing too is, as Brett was saying, there is a variety of different positions that you can get even with our university. And if you're at least working under the university umbrella, we do tend to be a lot more flexible with that student schedule too. So as many of you would be already aware, having gone or currently in your undergrad, we do have federal work study programs, but we also have what are called NSE jobs or Nova Southeastern employment jobs. Technically, the teaching assistantships fall underneath that designation. So you may be able to find other types of scholarship positions there too. But for the most part, if you're going to be looking on online listings, say on the NSU careers page, those you can filter out whether or not you'd like to look at part-time or full-time positions. And you can even go as further as to select certain categories for different types of positions. So there is a category for like research, non-for-profit work if you were to take a look at the NSU careers listings page. And many times you can even select it via the college too. So you'd be able to see more specific related positions that would be open underneath the Halmos College of Arts and Sciences. One great one that I know a lot of students don't think about too much. In fact, we have a full-time front desk person for the oceanographic campus. And she's a godsend for me. Many of you, if you've gotten the chance to visit the campus, you actually might have seen her. Her name's Daria. And she gets that employee tuition discount too, because she works a full-time schedule with us. So you'd at least be out on the campus with us. And in the cases for the PhD students, their situation has basically become that their job is to be a PhD student. So they're a full-time research associate with their lab, which usually then qualifies them pending that 6-month probationary period for the employee tuition discount, which is how we see the support structure come in for the PhD program, along with another type of scholarship. But I would need to talk about that on a more individual basis if students are looking into the PhD program, because it's a little bit more of a lengthy explanation as to how that all works.
And we do have online classes for some of your electives, and sometimes for the cores, they're night classes as well. So you can kind of work those around your work schedule.
Thank you, Dr. Frank. And Dr. Frank, I'm actually going to definitely let you handle this next question. I'm gonna turn that over to you. So the question, everybody, is what is the current situation with federal funding and scholarships in regards to the current administration?
Currently not good, but there's a lot of lawsuits going on. Our PhD scholarships are donor funded. They're not dependent upon federal scholarships. So our PhD scholarships, we should be able to continue with those. Right now, federal funding is really up in the air. It's pretty, can't really say what what they're gonna take away next, and if the lawsuits are gonna bring a lot of that back. So we'll just have to wait and see, unfortunately.
Course registration, because that was the next question that was asked already as well. So for the fall semester, it is coming up on April 7th. So that is starting Monday for those of you who have been applied, been admitted, and have paid your seat deposit. So that should be coming right around the corner for you. Is it possible to secure an RA post-admission, but prior to committing to enrollment? The listings on NSU careers page, being current student to even to apply. So you would not be eligible, I do not believe, to apply for those positions, get the position before enrolling with our programs, because we want to make sure that we are giving them to students that are 100% committed to coming to NSU for their education. So that's something I do not believe you would be able to secure one of those RA positions, before fully committing to be a student for us.
That's correct. Yeah.
And I think and feel free to disagree, Dr. Franco, I would say with that too, the two could kind of happen at once, so to speak, too. So you could be having a separate conversation, not necessarily say formally applied, right? Maybe you're having a conversation with one of the faculty members and they are interested in bringing you on for a formal position. And then that would solidify your opportunity or your decision to then enroll. But formally speaking, you would have to enroll and then you would be able to apply.
I do want to add one quick note that Teddy, you kind of sparked on my memory. If you have already gotten a tour, welcome. I really hope you enjoyed your tour of our oceanographic facility. If you have not, we highly encourage students to come and look at the wonderful facility that we do have here. It really does a fantastic job of showcasing, what NSU offers our students in the lab spaces, and the general campus facilities down here are top notch. I've personally worked in multiple other universities, and I'm continually blown away by, what NSU offers our students on a daily basis from a campus situation. So we definitely encourage you. And if you are interested in something like that and you have not been down yet, please feel free to contact myself or Teddy, and we can direct you to the website where we have listings where you can register for tours. We do them Monday through Friday. And we're doing about, I believe it's 4 a day, Teddy, if I'm correct. It's 10 to 11, 11 to 12, and then
3 a day.
3 a day.
Sometimes we flex on a 4th one, but kind of as necessary.
Yes.
Does anyone have any other questions? Oh,
nope. Yes.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Teddy.
For clarification, both TA and RA positions are based on applications, correct? So yes and no. So formally, yes, there's always an application considered with the actual position itself. Although how they go about the hiring process is really dependent, one, on the individual lab, if we're talking about research assistantships, and if it's teaching assistantships, they have a specific timeline they have to adhere to. So again, you do have to be at least in at the admitted stage for the TA position, but the way that they handle that is because it follows the undergraduate calendar year, they look to choose candidates to review and then make their decisions on actually right around this period, around the end of March and then into April, usually making their decisions by some point in May to then have those students come in to be the new fall TAs. You usually will then come in about a week prior to the rest of the student body to go through training, and you'll actually do the formal paperwork closer to that point. The reason for that is because the application with the TA position is tied to our software program called JobX, and JobX it only allows for applications to be done closer to our fall or winter periods, respectively. So with that, then you technically aren't formally applying to begin with. You'll submit like an inquiry over to the department chair, and then they'll follow up with either doing an interview or at least a follow-up meeting to go over details of the program, and then they'll make their decisions from there, followed by coming closer to fall for the actual paperwork. The RA positions, those are based off of the NSU careers listings page. So yes, there's formal application with that.
I can answer the next question for us. So in your acceptance email, there will be an orientation closer to the fall semester. It is usually the Friday before classes start. It is only a 1-day orientation. You'll get to meet the rest of your cohort that you're coming to school with in the fall. but you will get more information emailed out to you by the department when we get closer to that actual deadline. So it's going to be in August, like pretty much right before the start of your classes.
Yeah, I think that's going to be the 15th, I want to say.
I believe you're correct. Yep. Is it recommended to volunteer in a lab before committing to a lab, or is it recommended to commit to a lab before the semester starts?
I would say yes, and it doesn't necessarily have to be a volunteer. You can really do a directed and independent study that you can get credit for if the lab supervisor has a small project they want you to work on. But when you come here, you go to classes, you figure out who the faculty are, and then you go and talk to the faculty, see their lab, and see if they have any room. And yes, several of my students have volunteered in my lab before they decided, yeah, this is something that they want to do for their research. So I would say if you have the time and motivation, it probably is a good idea.
And that kind of leads into the next question. Do you recommend reaching out to professors before being accepted into the program? And yes, that is something we do recommend, and we do see a lot of emails that are sent either directly to the faculty or reached out to myself or Teddy asking, for faculty contact information. We do highly encourage this from both an academic and a professional standpoint. It does put you on our faculty's radar, so to speak, as someone that is invested in wanting to be in their labs. So with that being said, we also encourage you to use the information that Teddy showed you earlier about the different faculty members. Do your research on their labs, so you're not just showing up to the sending an email basically being like, hey, I like sharks. Show some more initiative from that standpoint, because it does definitely put you at on the faculty's checklist. And then we definitely encourage you to. And please keep in mind, all of this is being recorded, and Teddy can definitely send you all of these links as well, or I can too, if you would like to, just have an easier way to kind of click on a link as well. Or you can take a photo. It's up to you.
And one thing I will add on that, on general, a lot of the faculty do tend to either copy me in or tell you to go and speak to me so I can give you more information about the program. If you have already been in contact with me or have reached out and we're in contact, feel free to just add like a little quick note in your email and be like, hey, I'm already in contact with Halmos College Admissions. That way you might not get the same old they'll give you their answer, of course, and then they'll be like, oh, and talk with Teddy too. So that way you won't have all of them telling you to come and talk to me all the time. Of course, I always am happy to chat. So always feel free to send me emails. I'm always happy to try and connect with any of our faculty over here. Now, with that too, faculty can be busy throughout the year. They're teaching classes, they're out in the field, they're in their lab. So try and give them the benefit of the doubt when you're waiting for an answer. And maybe Dr. Frank might not like me for saying this, but even though if they say no at the beginning, that can change. Everyone's always doing grant applications throughout the year. They're always looking for more funding, more opportunities for our students and for research as well. So things are fluid. They can change. And it's incumbent upon you as an applicant and as a professional to be able to keep that communication channel going if it really is something that you're interested in pursuing.
And if I may just add on to what Brett and Teddy just mentioned, with that communication, if you change your mind, make sure that you also reach out, because I do have professors that will specifically email me and ask about you because you inquired about, them and their lab. And so they'll say like, hey, what's the process? Where are they? And then sometimes you as a student, you could have changed your mind or gone another route. So I would say just also communicate that to the professors. It keeps a good relationship going just in case you change your mind again.
Great.
That's a great point. That's a great point.
All right. Any other questions? Well, then I want to thank you all so much for joining us here this evening. We had a wonderful evening with y'all. I hope you were able to learn a little bit more about the university, our programs, as well as our faculty and team, and we'll be in touch with you real soon.
Thank you all very much for being here.